everyone. Welcome back to Talk Talk. I'm here with my brother James. I am Dan, and we're going to be talking about pushy parents and whether that's good or bad. And we're not going to use it solely in the sporting aspect, although we will delve into that. It will be just in general life, really, learning, extra activities and stuff like that. We'll look at everything and see if it's good or bad, or what our own personal points of view are.
I think so, yeah. I think pushy parenting is one of those things that is always a big talking point in one way or the other. A lot of people see it as being good, but also a lot of people see it as being bad. I don't know what the split is, but I suppose you could argue it's about 50-50. Um,
Mm.
I think from my own point of view, I think it's probably best again. I know we've done it quite a few times before. I think it always works quite well if we start off with our own points of view. I
Yeah.
think for myself personally, I was quite lucky that my parents encouraged me to do things. I was
Hmm.
never pushed into anything.
Yeah.
Um, so if I ever wanted to do anything, my mum and dad would encourage me. So like when I wanted to start playing football, they encouraged me. When I wanted to play cricket, they encouraged me. When I wanted to play rugby, they encouraged me. Um, so in terms of sport wise for myself, I was never pushed into doing anything. They were always just supportive, and I always appreciated that, and I always thought that that worked quite well. Um, as I got older, my mum and stuff still came to the rugby matches. Dad obviously had work, but so he couldn't come as much as he wanted to. But mum used to come and she used to get really involved. But I think there's a huge difference between a parent being involved in your hobbies or in your sporting industry sort of thing, or
Mm.
not even industry, I suppose just your sporting life, but to being completely pushy. Because I suppose when we talk about a pushy parent, we're talking about a parent that is so probably hell bent on their child becoming the next best footballer or the next Albert Einstein type thing where they're just completely pushing them into one area,
Yeah.
completely neglecting all the other possible avenues that they could be going into for enjoyment or for personal development.
Yeah.
So I suppose for myself that way, I suppose the pushy at school, I suppose, is a bit different because obviously some kids, especially myself, I was quite lazy at the start of school, so I needed that push to get me to actually do anything, let alone try and do something good. And obviously it worked quite well because I got relatively good GCSEs, I got B's and C's, so I can't argue with that. So I suppose it all depends on the type of push you're looking at,
Yeah.
but I don't think that if you get these parents that are standing on the sideline of whether it's football or rugby or something like that, and if you've had a bad game sort of thing, you get a huge dressing down in the car on the way home sort of thing. It makes you feel absolutely terrible about your life. I
Yeah.
don't think that's the way to go. I don't think that helps out at all. But what about yourself?
Um. Yeah. Just to sort of echo what you've said. In terms of, I think there's a massive. I don't think I know. There's a massive difference between support and pushing. The the aspect of supporting your child in something that they want to do is massively important and is great. But there's a fine line between supporting and being that pushy parent or being that overbearing. The if you, for instance, like we will revert back to sport a bit because of our own personal experiences and stuff. But it's you're playing football or something and you're thinking about the game, but then also you're thinking about if I don't get this right when I get in the car, Dad's gonna have a go at me or something like that. Um, which then puts an additional pressure on a young child that should be just playing, enjoying playing whatever they're doing. So yeah, I think, like I say, it's a fine line. Um, my personal experiences, once again, parents were really good. Took me to anything I wanted to do. If I wanted to do anything, whether that be like I used to do taxi do. I used to do football, cricket, pretty much any sport. They'd always take me, but then also had my granddad as well on my mum's side, um, who was always at my cricket games when he was still alive and stuff, and that pushed me to play cricket, and that also pushed me to improve at cricket because of the fact that I knew he was there watching, which is and like I say, he'd always sit there and he'd have a good laugh with everyone, and it was never oh, you're terrible, or you didn't do this, or you should do this. There was always ways that he thought I could improve, and there was ways that he spoke about it and stuff. But in the same aspect, it was always constructive criticism. Um, it was never an ear bashing. And once again, that support shown there pushed me to carry on playing. But I find sports, especially, and probably academically as well, in any aspect, I think a lot of genres or certain subjects lose a lot of very very good people because of the pushy parents. Because
Yeah.
you see it all the time. The amount of you see it. Well, I mean, growing up, there was kids around me that their parents were so pushy to do this, that you've got to be good at football. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. I expect you to be at county trials and stuff. That they're pushed so hard that they just fall out of love with the sport that they
Yeah,
originally started playing because they love. And it's so sad to see, but it's understandable, because I think if I was playing a sport and people were like, do this, do this, do this, do this, you've got to get this, you've got to get that, you've got to get that, and you think, when you're
pressure.
and when you're at school as well, and you've got teachers and your parents like, oh, you need to achieve this, you need to, and your whole life just seems like there's never any downtime. And that's what like your sort of hobbies and stuff should be, is stuff you enjoy doing, that you can relax doing, and that you can just spend time sort of not thinking about anything, just going out, enjoying yourself, just in that free headspace. But
Yeah.
yeah, but then on the other hand, you see all these overly, not overly, but these really successful kids that are now set for life, and it's because a lot of their parents pushed them so hard when they were kids. And then when they're sitting there and they're, you know, financially not worrying the world, and they're 16, 17, you kind of sit there and think, well, what is the right way? You do question it, don't you? Because yeah, they might have lost parts of their childhood, but in the same aspect, they're now financially stable, where they don't have to go and work 9 to 5 and lose the rest of their adult life to work in a 9 to 5 job.
I think that there's a way to look at it. I will be the first one to admit I was never the best at football. I wasn't very good at all, hence why I changed to rugby. I enjoyed it more and I was better at it. There are different aspects of pressure I think you can tap into when you're trying to better yourself. And I don't think pushy parents or family is really that beneficial, unless you start from a really young age and you can see that you've got some sort of talent that could take you there. I don't think that obviously um as my son gets a bit older, sort of thing, and whatever he wants to do in his life, I'll support that sort of thing. But I think if he starts doing something and I can see that he's not 100% great at it, sort of thing, obviously I'll still support him and it'll still be good to go watch him do it. But I don't think I would be pushing him to like try and pursue it as a career sort of thing. I think that's what I think
It's
realism
important
is
to be
quite important.
realistic, definitely.
Yeah. Realism is a massive, massive part of it. Like Dad was always honest with me. He always said to me, "You're not very good at football," which at the time was quite hard to take. But looking back now, I wasn't great, sort of thing.
Mm.
I enjoyed playing it. It was good fun, but I wasn't very good. But it's just one of those things, in it. Like I think one of the best pressures you can have, as you said, is family going and watching, and you just wanting to play well
Yeah, because they're
to
watching.
make them proud, sort of thing,
Yeah.
of you watching. I
Hmm.
don't think you need the parents to be pushing you, because, as you said, it ruins all love of anything,
Yeah.
whether it's sport or if it's sort of like academic wise. Like you might really love chemistry or you might really love math and you might want to become an accountant or become a scientist type thing.
Mm.
Um, but if your parents really pushing it because you're predicted to get A sort of thing, and in one mock grade you get a B sort of thing, and they're all over your back. I don't think that's not the right way to go about it either, because then the amount of pressure that is on your shoulders, that if you then get another B, you're going to feel so terrible, and you're going
Yeah.
to feel absolutely dreadful, and then it's just going to get worse. That's the other thing, is that when you've got that kind of pressure and you get that disappointment,
and that's what causes, I think, a lot of mental illness in young teens now. Is the amount of pressure, the pressure for good grades, to do well academically, but then also be this. They go on social media and stuff to sort of relax or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're seeing all these fake models and how they should look,
Yeah,
and then their self-esteem just plummets because they can't fall back on anything because the parents are sitting there saying, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, as well as them going on and then having social media, they should be this, they should be that. And the thing is that you can never be everything, and it's okay not to be everything. Things seem to always um, unfold, and they will unfold in whatever way they want. But you've just got to sort of take it, really. But I think being a pushy parent. I mean, with little and growing up, my main thing for her is to whatever she wants to do, support her as much as I can, and give her as much opportunity to do what she wants to do. But in the same aspect, be very realistic in life lessons of things she's got to expect when she grows up. And you see it all the time with footballers. Not so much now, because obviously going going back, going forward, there's a massive focus on it. But before there'd be in obviously an academy or whatever, and then they won't they wouldn't have the academic career. So if they didn't get through, then they'd obviously have stuff to fall back on, which I think they're quite hot on now. But
yeah,
previously they weren't, and you saw it quite a lot where people would focus so much on their I'm going to be a professional footballer, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, and then things don't work out, and then all of a sudden there's nothing to fall back on. So that's something quite important that I want to sort of lay out for her to make sure that she's got multiple options, because the one that you want, a lot of the time doesn't always work out the way you want it.
no, I think that's it. I think the main thing is as my son gets older is that he just whatever he wants to do, he enjoys it. That's the main thing. Is
Mm.
that I think football, rugby, if he wants to do dance, if he wants to do whatever he wants to do, if he wants to join the debate team, or something, I don't care, as long as he enjoys what he does, he's having fun, and that is especially at childhood level. I don't want him to feel stressed or to feel nervous about anything, or I don't. The last thing you get that at school anyway, when you're worrying about your grades and stuff like that, the last thing he's going to need is me or my wife sort of breathing down his neck, like, why why didn't you score 4 tries in rugby last weekend, or why didn't you score 2 goals or keep a clean
Mm.
sheet or something like that. They don't need that sort of stress and pressure. They do these sports to help get away from the everyday pressures and stresses of school and social media. Everything we seem to talk about at the moment just comes back to social media, but I think it's
Yeah,
because it's such a big
it's massive in
topic
life.
today, especially kids' lives like
And
that. They
the
do,
problem is that kids are on it so early now that it molds a lot of them as well.
yeah,
So it molds their expectations, it molds what they feel they should be, it molds how they feel they should be to other people, and you know they copy things as well. It don't matter if you're 11 or 12 and you're on social media, and like we've talked previous videos about abuse and stuff, that's where they pick it up from because they see it and they think, well, oh, that's cool, and that's the way it is. We live in a world that now where people can mold your kids and stuff and change your kids' expectations while they're still in the house with you. It's
mm.
a bit weird, but yeah, it's
But yeah,
scary.
I think that's it. I think the amount of pressure they get, as I said, the amount of pressure they get at school and on social media from whether it's friends or from, as you said earlier, viewing stuff. Instagram is one of those things that obviously it's all visual, isn't it? There's
Mm.
obviously words attached to the images, but it's all visual. And there's so many things on there about people's bodies and the way they should look. And all you have to do is follow one of the Kardashians, and you already feel bad about the way your body looks anyway.
Yeah, but a lot of
Um,
it's edited as well. That's the problem. Is that it's basically it is false advertisement. They need to really, I say they need to, but they should be putting these photos out and be putting a bit at the bottom saying, "Edit. This has been edited."
Yeah,
Because people are that naive to actually think that a lot of these celebrities look the way they do when they don't. they, you know,
yeah.
they, yeah, they look fabulous when you've spent 10 grand on makeup and whatnot to get yourself ready for, like the red carpet or something. But in natural, in normal day life, they look a lot like me or you. Not saying that you look like Cheryl Cole or anything like that, but it's
I mean, she's a makeup artist does do well then.
yeah, but yeah, it's just I think that there's so much naivety in the fact that they actually think that they look like these photos, and then they're encouraged to edit the photos themselves of themselves as well, which
Yeah,
I just think sets them up to fail. It's just false expectation, and it's you ask any young girl now, I should think, oh, what would you change about your body and that, and they'd always be like, oh, I wanted bigger eyes, or want to be skinnier or something. Whereas, I mean, when you spoke to a 13-year-old kid back in our day, sort of thing, they'd be like, "What do you want to change?" And they'd be like, "Oh, I want to change these poppers off my Adidas trousers or
yeah.
something." It's a completely it's and I'm sure every generation's gone through this where they look. You kind of understand now when you were younger and people are like, oh, back in my day it weren't like that and stuff. And I don't want to be solely that person that sits there and goes,
I
oh,
think
that would never happen back in my day. But it's scary to see how generations change.
yeah, I think that's something I saw the other day actually on Facebook. I think it was, and I know we've gone slightly off topic as we normally do, just because we're having
Yes, it's our
um
specialty.
yeah. But it was about we're the generation, we're sort of the middle generation of about 10 years or so, where the generation before, so our parents sort of thing, or even 5 years sort of before you, Dan, you're looking
Mm.
at the generation that had to learn to learn to use technology,
Hmm.
and the generation after us is the generation that was born with technology. We're the only generation
Yeah,
sort of thing that has had to
I
be
still
the middle
think
line.
I think, like I say, that we're going to end up getting called clickbait and stuff because we put titles up and then end up going off onto other subjects anyway. But I'll go on to it anyway. But I still think that I had the best childhood, and I think like our ages, I'm going to be 31 soon, and you're 26, 27 now.
27, yeah.
Yeah, so it's we're like a 4 year age gap pretty much. But I think our childhood was the best childhood possible. I mean, me personally, because also I had very like friends that we just used to do stupid things, which were it was so much fun. But also we had the freedom where we could go out and your parents wouldn't be sort of worried about you not coming home. Whereas now I wouldn't let Litlin out by herself until she's you know like
As long as you're
13,
before it gets
14.
dark, then you're all right.
Yeah, that's it. And we used to just play down a street sort of thing, like when it was dark. And I mean, obviously, the difference is that you lived in a city. I lived in a tiny, tiny village. So that also is a big difference. But also, I think it was the fact that technology was there, that you could enjoy it with your friends, and you could enjoy it, but you wouldn't be on it for the whole week. You, I remember times where I'd be playing like on the PlayStation, and then people would knock at your door and be like, "Right, we're coming down to play football," and you just chuck it. That's right, see ya, and go. Whereas now I
Yeah.
feel that it's a lot more. You don't get that anymore as much.
Yeah, do you want to play some
Um,
football? Well, yeah, you log
mm,
into your FIFA account, I'll log into
yeah,
mine, and
yeah,
we'll
that's it. Yeah, yeah. So I think we had the best
it was a
mixture
good
where
good mix, wasn't it?
technology wasn't advanced enough to sort of draw your attention completely, but then there was enough to entertain you when times where you weren't out with your mates and stuff, but you still went out with your mates. Whereas now I think it's either or sort of thing.
We, I think, I think what we've managed to do is we've managed to draw the tangent back in again, full circle, because you said you've gone off topic, but
Mm,
if you look at it in that sense, the reason we was able to do that is because our parents weren't as pushy, sort of thing. If you
mm,
had pushy parents, whether it's towards sport sort of thing, then you wouldn't be able to go out and play out and have fun with your friends because you'd have to
Mm.
be in the garden or down the field, sort of practicing your keepy uppies or practice your
And also
passing, rugby or something like
the contracts and stuff, because I had a couple of people I knew growing up that were sort of in academies, and they weren't allowed to play football because if they got injured, so they weren't allowed
that.
to do it in like PE and stuff like that. So yeah, it's you know, that kind of takes their childhood away, and I don't think that they're playing professionally now. So
No,
you think, yeah, that's brilliant. You were in an academy, but you couldn't play football with your mates in case you got injured.
yeah,
Um, but now you're just living a life like we are, and you've sort of missed out on that.
yeah, and
And
I think
I know what I'd choose if I had the opportunity of being in an academy, having that experience,
having the
or
life you had,
yeah, or having the childhood I had. I'd choose that all day. But
yeah, I think that's it. I think if we look back at the pushy parenting side of things, I think that's what we were trying to say from our own personal point of view is that we had such a good childhood because our parents weren't pushy in that sense.
mm,
Obviously, I know mum and dad pushed me in school sort of thing because they said I was so laid back that if I was any more laid back, I'd be lying down.
yeah, yeah.
So I needed that push to drive myself forward. I don't know
Yeah, but
what
I
you
get that as well. That must just be a trait we have as brothers, is that
yeah.
we're both just pretty blasé about things.
But I think the reason we was able to have such good childhoods is because they weren't pushing us to one thing or another. We were able to choose our own life choices. We were
And
able
they
to do what we wanted
supported
to.
that as well,
Yeah,
and
we was able to
that's the
do what we
biggest
wanted,
thing.
do what we wanted to because we had the freedom to do so, sort of thing.
Mm,
Like because we weren't being pushed into football, we didn't have to worry about oh I would because obviously if you was pushing to football or I was pushing to football, you wouldn't have been able to have played cricket and I wouldn't have been able to play rugby sort of thing. And that's
mm,
the other passions we found in life is those sort of things. Obviously, football's our main talking point. The amount of times we text each other and it's like it's about the football and it's like,
yeah.
God, what kind of team have they selected this week, sort of thing, or something like that. But again, pushy parenting sort of thing. If you was pushed into cricket, then you wouldn't necessarily have a bigger love of football, sort of thing. Obviously, this is just hypothetical, but I think the main thing about children's early development is about trying as many different things as possible to find out what they love and what they enjoy. And there are so many different things that they can learn from different sports or from different subjects at school or different extracurricular activities. Um, I think that's where I was so blessed in that sense that that mum and dad gave me the perfect mix of choosing what I wanted to do and learning life experiences from that because I think that's
Mm.
the only way you can learn anything is by doing things and learning from your own mistakes or by learning that what you do like and what you don't like.
This is my worry going forward. Is also it's on the same topic but slightly off. Um, is that nowadays in schools and stuff you get medals for taking part and stuff. I don't get that. That's not teaching kids. You know what? You know, winning and losing. You lose so much in life. you
Yeah,
know, you get so many. You'll lose more times than you'll win in life, but they're not teaching them that aspect and what you have to do to achieve the things that you want to do.
yeah,
Um, and like I say, that's where we're going a bit soft. So I think even the parents that are sort of not pushy and supportive, they still need to be realistic, and that's where that realistic comes back in, where they're like, yeah, you can do what you want, but you have to work for it. Not like just yeah, you'll be great at that. You'll be great at that. So it's yeah. I think with how modern day is with sort of just take part. That's what matters. It isn't forming the kids. I think going forward that mentality of I want that. I've got to go work for that.
I think in a sense, I agree, sort of thing, because I've always been like, it's not about the taking part, it's about the winning, sort of thing. Obviously, that's
Mm,
just sort of half joking, half being serious. But my wife, who was sort of worked in a nursery sort of thing, she was always no, the kids need to enjoy taking part, and that's the one sense of the if they get a medal for taking part, then they enjoy it more because they've got something at the end of it. I
Yeah.
suppose it's one of those double-edged swords where um
But that's
uh,
also me saying that, but I'm like I say, I'm extremely competitive. So
I think that's it.
yeah,
I don't think it's a bad thing to be competitive, but then again, are we sort of being hypocrites there by saying we're not pushy parents, but we're competitive?
not really, because I mean I'm competitive, but in the same aspect, I wouldn't push Litlin into doing something that she didn't want to do,
Yeah,
or because you see it all the time, especially with football. Is that the parents are trying to relive their lives through their kids. So they wanted to be a professional footballer, they were never good enough, or they just missed out. So what they'll do is that they'll push their kid, and they'll be like, right, he'll be a footballer, and then I'll train him to be, and then they start. That's why they get so caught up in it, because they're like
yeah,
trying to relive their own childhoods and their own dreams through the kids, which is that's where your pushy parent comes in. Whereas I'm sort of like, go do what you want, but what you do, try and be the best you can at what you want to do. Does
yeah,
that make sense? So I'd always give her um, the you know the equipment, so to speak, to do the best job she can. But it's down to her to work to do it. And I think everyone that succeeds in life is competitive or has that competitive edge because they always want to improve themselves. But I think there's a massive difference between being competitive and being a pushy parent.
yeah. I think as we sort of said earlier, there's different ways to be able to encourage your children, sort of thing, and there are different pressures that they can get from that. Like looking back at school, sort of thing, our school wasn't particularly very good at rugby, sort of thing. So I was one of the, if not the best sort of player in my year. And that was a completely different kind of pressure, is that everyone sort of expects you to lead from the front by example.
Mm.
That's a whole different kind of, and the teachers expect so much from you as well because you're one of, if not the only person that is sort of any relatively good at rugby. You're sort of expected to to make every tackle, to score every try, sort of thing, and that's not healthy either. But
No, no.
that's just one of those things that's completely unavoidable. You can't help the year you've got. You can't help who's that sort of side of things. But
Also, did you enjoy that because you were in that position?
I think it's one of those things in it, like it doesn't come around very often. So I was very flattered, literally.
Mm.
To give you a quick example of what it was like, one I think one game in the season, the PE teacher was sort of he said which position should I play in? And I went, what do you mean? He went, you can play wherever you want to because obviously you're the best person in every position. Just tell me where you want to play, and that's where you're going to play.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was quite flattering. In fact, it was very flattering. Um, especially as this PE teacher actually taught dad as well at school.
Oh, right, yeah. He's probably
So
scared then.
yeah, that's it. So he had all that from before. Um, but I think I was that was very flattering, but that was a different kind of pressure because, as I said, everyone expects it. And I think in one of those games, Dad was actually able to come and watch,
Yeah,
and it's one of the only sort of situations that it's a bit pushy. But I think it was more of a bit disappointment. He said that was one of the worst games I've ever seen you play. Obviously, it's not really pushy. It's just being honest, as you said. It's about being realistic.
you've got to train. That's so wrong. You've got to implement in your child that they've got to, they've got to receive constructive criticism if they want
Yeah,
to get anywhere in life. They can't have something bad said to them and then them take it to heart and then just kick it in. So that's probably a time where I turn around to Little, and if she turned around and said, "I don't want to do that no more," and the reason for her, like her justifying that was because someone turned around and said you had a bad game or you didn't do this right or you did this incorrect. Well, no, that's you need to take that information, then you need to go work hard on rectifying it. And then what you do is you come back and then you do it better. And that's not being a pushy parent. That's just turning around and saying, shape yourself up. You need to work hard to get somewhere in life. You don't. Nothing's given to you. Because as soon as
yeah,
they leave, that's what I mean about the sort of trophies for kids and stuff. Stuff's given to them, and it's like as soon as you leave school, no one's giving you anything. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got people that have got parents with like millions of pounds in the bank that will look after their
Yeah,
kids financially for the rest of life. But in general aspects, you have to work for everything, and I think that's an important lesson that they need to learn and
yeah.
sort of get drilled into them early on.
But yes, I think in the same sense, that sort of thing is that if you feel like that, if you feel like, oh, I don't want to be, I don't want to do it anymore because somebody said that I wasn't very good or I had a bad game, sort of thing, then you clearly don't want to do it that much anyway.
Mm,
If you're quick to jump into it,
yeah, yeah,
as we said, you're one of those. It's I think it's all about enjoyment at the end of the day. Kids have got to enjoy what they do. And there's no point pushing kids into doing something that they're not going to enjoy because they're not going to be very good at it because their heart's not in it.
that's it. But yeah, please let us know what you sort of think down below. I mean, like I say, we before we were recording this, we were a bit like, how are we gonna plan this out? And once again, we've just rambled on and sort of
Waffled
got
on for
yeah,
half an hour or so.
yeah, that's it. So yeah, we'll round it up now, and then like I say, we'll be really interesting to see people's comments and their points of view below and their thoughts. Um, but yeah, I'm like I say,
Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to comment and get involved. If you guys want to let us know some future ideas, or
yes,
let us
future
know,
ideas, massive.
yeah, let us know future ideas, or if you've got something that you want to talk to us about, then let us know. We can definitely get you guys involved. We're always open for some interaction, some dialogue. Um, as we say, we just talk. We go off on tangents quite a lot. So
Best way.
we're yeah, we're more than willing to get you guys involved as well.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, so let us know what you think. And until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you.